Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Recruiters with No Limits Live. Always unscripted, all the time. Freestyle chat of the top stuff in the staffing industry. I'm here with my sidekick and co-host, John Raffini. What's up, John?
How are you, Richard?
Hey, pretty good. And our special guest today, I just got to introduce her right off the bat, Barb Bruno. How you doing, Barb?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Good as gold training. I love that name, especially during the Olympics right now. It's all about gold, right?
I know. Well, it's not about gold for the U.S. so far, but we're getting there.
I know. We had a couple bumps, but hey, at the end of the day, hopefully we can win the medal count.
I hear you.
First off, an issue that we're having here is a work shortage. Am I right or not, John?
There's a bunch of job openings, but even more people that are not working. So it's a little bit of an interesting scenario that we have ourselves in as far as needing people, but not being able to get enough people for a variety of reasons.
Exactly. And this was in the USA Today last week. Look at this. They're bringing teenagers in for all kind of jobs now that they would never done before. I mean, this is like they're looking for anybody to go to work.
Well, and the key, and Barb mentioned this before we go on air, it's like for those that want to work. So that's the big challenge for all age spectrums now, as far as, some people are still they're whether it be they're comfortable with the stimulus payments they're getting or unemployment or not happy, to settle for any type of culture. I don't know. What are some of the things you're hearing, Barb, as far as some of the challenges that companies are having with finding people and getting them to want to come into work?
There are so many challenges right now. Number one, as long as they're going to increase those checks on top of the unemployment checks, when those disappeared last October, you had lines around staffing firms trying to find a job. And then the minute the checks came back, the line stopped. And you got so many temporary staffing firms that are going out of business because they can't find people to put out on jobs. And I know in my own area, I'm right outside of the Chicagoland area, there's help wanted signs everywhere. And so many teenagers, you're right, the teenagers are being hired, but so many sports take up a teenager's, 11 months out of 12 months. And it's funny because these kids are getting paid $15 and $17 to work at a car wash, or they're getting cash bonuses if they show up every day. And so I think, it's people that really want to work can find a job right now in just about any niche and about any location in the country. But the big thing is, I think that there's so many people out there that are just not motivated to go to work, or they've gotten so used to being at home and working remote that they won't accept a job. In fact, I'm getting that question from recruiters. How do we convince people that they're limiting their job opportunities by demanding that they will only work a virtual job? So there's all kinds of issues, that happen because of COVID and also happen because it's such a candidate-driven market right now.
Well, I'll tell you what, in the 90s, if they were paying me $20 an hour, I'd be washing every car from day to dawn.
Seriously, wouldn't you? I mean, we're getting $50 a day to just show up at work cash. I mean, we've got a Kentucky Fried Chicken that's doing that. Any kids that show up at work, they get $50 cash at the end of the day, at the end of their shift.
Holy cow.
That? Yeah.
Bribing them to come into work.
I might go fried chicken. I don't know.
Oh, my. Oh, wow. What a topic that is. But hopefully down the road, we don't have to keep saying shortage. So hopefully we can say, that jobs are getting filled. But we got a long way to go. But, hey, we're going to keep fighting.
We'll
Barb,
get there.
It's time to deep dive in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to know how you came into being one of the best trainers and coaches in the business and everything.
Well, first, I have to thank you for that compliment. I'm glad that you feel that way about me. I never wanted to be a trainer. I love recruiting. I got into the recruiting business because I was becoming a single parent and I was in a sales job. I was selling real estate. And at the time, interest rates were almost 20%. And so my real estate sales went down. So I was selling real estate evenings and weekends and working as a secretary during the day. And I realized that I wanted a different sales job that wasn't so dependent on so many people. And the real estate sale was long, and so I wanted something quicker. So I went to several employment firms in my town, and all they did was test my typing. And I kept saying, I don't want a secretarial job. I work for the president of U.S. Steel. I can't get a better secretarial job than I have. I want to sell. And they go, you can't sell. And I go, really? I'm the top listing agent, and I work part-time. And they go, real estate's not really sales, Barb. And I went, oh, my God. So then I thought, I bet they treat other people like this. So how do you open one? So I went to Indianapolis, Indiana, and I said, how do I open, at the time, employment agency? So I opened Sunshine Employment. I almost hate to admit that. Yellow letterhead, yellow everything. And I was going to put sunshine in the lives of the people that I represented. I wanted to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. And that's what I've done my whole career. You know, I try to see the world through the eyes of the people I serve. I put myself in their shoes. I see the world through their eyes because they were selling at me. They were, you know, they had a job to fill. They weren't listening to me at all. And so then I realized as I was going to conferences and that there were a lot of speakers that had never made a placement in their life. They had never placed a contractor. They had never gone through the gut-wrenching things we go through daily. And I was the president of the state association in Illinois, and our speaker basically got drugged up and couldn't speak the next day. So we drew straws. And I said, okay, there's 5 of us. Somebody has to go up and do a keynote so that we can figure out what we're going to do. We have 800 people here at a Midwest conference. They've all paid, you know, so somebody's going to go out there, and all 5 of us said no. And they go, Barb, you draw first. And I go, oh, no, I'm president. I draw last. So whoever had the X on a piece of paper, you had to go out there. So they all 4 drew, and nobody got the X. And I was like, no. And so I was literally in the bathroom, physically ill, telling them I couldn't do it. And they said, Barb, you made up the rules. Whoever got the X. So you're on, and you've got 10 minutes to pull it together. And I was like, oh my God. So I remember going out there and I said, you know what? Our keynote speaker is ill. We've put together a much better program for you. I just want you to give me 6 topics. What are the 6 most important things? Let's customize this keynote to you. Because I was working a desk. I was a top producer. So I thought, no matter what they give me, I should be able to talk 10 or 15 minutes on it. So they gave me 6 topics. I did 10 minutes on each of them. And then I opened the audience for questions. And then as a result of that, there were people from 7 states there. So I kept getting requests to speak. And I did it for about 10 months or a year. And then I quit because it was costing me too much money to be a trainer. Because, you know, I wasn't charging. I was taking time away from my desk. They were paying my travel, my hotel, and my meals. But it was costing me thousands of dollars to be a speaker. So I walked away from it. And then the National Association called me once and they said, you know, would you just come and do 1 program? We'll actually pay you. And this was like 2 years later. And I said, okay. So I went and they paid me. And so many people came up and said, you talk our language, like you're no BS, like you do this, don't you? And I go, yes. And so then I thought, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I have to make it a business. I can't only be dependent on me training to make business in my training company. So that's when I developed web-based training, and I have a lot of different products I sell online in that. And the reason I did that was because I can't be there 24/7. I still have a search firm. You know, I still have 3 clients, and I only do that so that if somebody says, when is the last time you made a placement? I could say 2 weeks ago, Thursday, I closed my last deal, because I think
I love you said that. Yes.
You know, and then they'll say, well, what was the salary? What was the fee to try to test me? You know, and I could tell them it was $235,000. It was a 58.6 fee. You know, I became a trainer by default, and now I feel a responsibility. Now there's a lot I want to do. My legacy is going to be that I'm training people how to do the job responsibly. And when I leave, I want to have made everybody's life better for having been trained by me. So that's kind of my ultimate motivation and goal.
Boy, that's awesome.
I
Now,
love it.
you mentioned something, how you treat people the way that, you know, you want to leave a legacy of that. So recruiters nowadays don't always subscribe to that. So, you know, talk about what you're seeing as far as, you know, the sentiments across, you know, our industry gets a really bad rap because a lot of recruiters don't do it the right way as the 3 of us would consider it. Are recruiters getting lazy?
Recruiters are just, what we did is we used to be very high touch because there were no computers. And then technology came in, and I love technology. I use technology every day. But we got so high tech that it's become very transactional. And because we're so busy right now, we've all got more business than we know what to do with. And the talent is not there. And by the way, any recruiters listening to this, the next time you say there are no candidates, I want you to get down on your knees tonight and thank God, because that's when you make the most money. So quit whining, because this is when you make the most money.
So true.
You know, But I think everybody says, well, nobody will call me back. They hide behind technology. You know why they're not calling you back? Because they don't see the benefit in talking to you. You sound like every other recruiter that's calling them, pitching things at them. They're sick of that.
Exactly.
So I don't know that it's lazy as much as it's been overwhelming. And people, it's very transactional. And unless you put yourself in a candidate's shoes and see the world through their eyes, it's never our job to agree or disagree with them. We've got to figure out, where are they in their life? What can we put in front of them where they'll accept without hesitation? And I think we're so busy and so overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of business, we become transactional. That's why I wrote the book last year. Kogan Page Publishing called me a little over a year ago and said, we want you to write a book. And I was like, what? And they're out of London. And I said, why do you want me to write you a book? And they said, we watched your LinkedIn learning courses. And so we like your viewpoint. We'd like you to write a book, but we want you to come up with a title right now that nobody else has written. And I said, well, can I have like a week or so to think about this? And they went, no, we're calling a few people. And off the cuff, if you were going to write a book for us, what would it be? And so I thought about that for a minute, and I said, high tech, high touch recruiting. We've got to use technology for our advantage and for sourcing and not to make cold calls, but we've got to realize it's a relationship building business. And so the book was launched last October, which was interesting, right in the middle of COVID. But that's my brain dump. I wrote a very comprehensive book, and I know recruiters don't read. And what Kogan Page wanted, by the way, they wanted me to write a book. Yeah, they wanted me to write a book that they could use in colleges if there was a recruiting course. They wanted me to write a book that if talent acquisition people read it, it would fit. They wanted me to write a book that if staffing and recruiting firms read it, it would fit. If somebody had 20 years of experience, they would like it, or if they were thinking about getting in recruiting. And I was like, oh, no problem, So I had to learn to work with, editors. I'm not used to being edited. I'm used to writing what I want. And so it was a learning experience for me. And then what I did is I put takeaways after each chapter. So knowing recruiters that would buy the Cliff Notes, I wrote the chapters, but then after every chapter, I put key takeaways. So if they just want to be lazy and go to the key takeaways on every chapter, they'll still get my brain dump. But that's the problem. We're dependent too much on technology. Computers don't make placements, people do. And it's a relationship building business based on rapport and trust. You can't control a candidate. You can't control a client. Stop trying to control people. Build rapport. Let them trust you. Show them your track record of success. They'll talk to you, but it's become hamster on a wheel, very transactional. And people, I do calls for job seekers once a week and they don't know who I am. And there's like 1,500 to 2,000 job seekers on every week. And they complain about us all the time. They don't know I'm a recruiter. So I'll say, well, let me explain, how you're supposed to interact. They're so confused because, we all they think we only care about the clients. They don't think we care about them at all. They don't think that we get back to them. They feel like they end up in a deep, dark hole somewhere. They feel we lie to them. I mean, when I hear what they're saying about us and I'm trying to educate them, it's sad how most talent out there view us. It's changing a little bit because there's a lot of good recruiters out there, but we've all got to get better.
Gosh, so true. Wow.
Hey, Johnny, I got to jump in here because everything Barb said is down to a T what I am. It's like, wow, Barb, you just touched a heart with me on that.
That's how you roll.
No, it's seriously everything. Yeah. I'm not a recruiter. I'm a job agent. And I tell people that, and I talk to job seekers all the time, just like you do. And they said, recruiters never call me back. And I keep saying, come on, recruiters, pick up the game so we can get back and staffing can be good again, And it's, you hit it. Job seekers are out there and they're like, if you're going to interview me, which we don't interview people, we want to get to know them,
it's all about figuring out, to your point, Barb, as a recruiter, you've got to take the time to get to know the person, not the candidate, the person, and get to know what's important to them. And then I always say you have to earn the right to present opportunities to that candidate based on what they are looking for and what's important. You can't just automatically start throwing up opportunities and all this kind of stuff, hoping that they'll like. If we do our job right, even though recruiting is sales, if we do our job right, we never have to sell anything because if we listen,
absolutely,
then all you're doing is providing solutions.
And the other thing is when we're talking to candidates, they can tell if you truly care about them, you're just trying to pitch a job, and they're so tired of that. They're so tired of being taken advantage of. And even like people that place contractors and that, why aren't the contractors redeployed? It's because they know you're earning money for every hour they work. And if we place them in a job and never call them, I think where we drop the ball big time is even after we successfully place somebody, you don't call to see how you're doing. I mean, we constantly call people for an entire year. I mean, we care about them. They get cards from us on their work anniversary. We make them part of our family. And I'm with you, Richard, where I consider ourselves a lifetime career agent. And when it comes to clients and hiring authorities, I want to be their friend. I'll start out as a vendor, then maybe a consultant, and then maybe a trusted advisor. But if I become their friend, even when things get tough, if I know everything about them, if they can only use one resource, they're going to use me. And so I think that's really important that we realize our ultimate goals. How many recruiters really talk about where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Let me help you do something now that'll help lead you to where you want to be, not fill a job that I happen to have.
I love what you said, that because it's all about listening to them. Don't tell them about us. They don't care about us.
They don't.
We want to solve a problem for them.
Yeah. They say, we all say we're different. And when they ask us, in fact, clients and candidates say the same thing, that we all say we're different. And then when they ask us how we're different, we all say the same things. We specialize in what you do. We're involved in the community. We've been in business system. They don't care. They don't care about us. They don't care about our opinions. They care. I always tell everybody, every candidate you talk to, every client you talk to, got a tattoo last night. 5 big bold letters on their forehead, and it's WIIFM. What's in it for me to talk to? What's in it for me to return your call? What's in it for me to work with you as opposed to the 7 other recruiters that called me this week? If you do that, if you always talk about how you can benefit them, just like when you guys said, when I talked to John yesterday, he said, give me an introduction. We want to introduce you. I said, please don't. No one cares. They can go to my website. They can find me. All your listeners care about is, can we give them information that's going to make them better at their jobs, whether they're a talent acquisition professional or they work in a staffing recruiting firm. Your show is to make them better. And that's what we have to do today. And that's what we have to do when we're out there working. We've got to make it better for our clients and better for our candidates.
Totally agree. Wow, Johnny, I mean, this stuff's deep. And Barb, you're reading our book right now, man. This is great stuff. I mean, she's incredible. I'm excited about everything that you're saying so far. I mean, I got a couple of questions I got to ask you real quick, Johnny.
Absolutely.
And Barb, is LinkedIn. I see you have on your site there. Mm-hmm. Please explain to everybody out there, recruiters, how to do a little bit of recruiting on LinkedIn. I mean, I seem like they're spamming over and over again, and I hear that they're not getting responses back. Do you have any solution to that?
Yeah, it's interesting because LinkedIn is actually researching because so many in-mails are not being answered anymore. And I've done 15 courses for LinkedIn, so I'm in an insider group with them. So I have access to their big data, and I made a pledge to LinkedIn that I would put 2 posts a week. And what I post on, and anybody that wants to follow on me on LinkedIn, go right ahead, use all the articles I'm posting, send it to candidates, send it to clients, because my LinkedIn articles are trying to help everybody that's out there. But, I think that the in-mails have lost their luxury and lost their effectiveness because we're in-mailing somebody and then we're pitching to them right away. I saw your LinkedIn profile. I've got the perfect job for you. And the candidates are saying, you don't know me. I don't want to do what I'm currently doing now. You're an idiot. The job you're presenting doesn't fit me. And so when you're sending an in-mail, you have to basically get their attention. Like, I've helped 17 people with your experience, basically advance their career in the last 90 days. I'd love to know what you see yourself doing next. Or if you're referred by somebody, someone referred me. And my recruiters get more referrals, from individuals that we've talked to on LinkedIn, and that based on, they know what we do because they know our niche, they know where we specialize. Your LinkedIn profile has to be a mini sales letter. Don't put your job title. Don't put, don't put what we do. Nobody cares about what you do. They care about how can you benefit them. So your profile has to be different. And if you really want to use LinkedIn effectively, then stop selling on LinkedIn. And I never thought I would say these words out of my mouth because my sense of urgency is yesterday. But slow down. Like, stop pitching and selling when you first go on LinkedIn. Develop a rapport, develop a relationship. Put 2 posts a week on your feed that'll benefit your audience, your candidates and your clients, and then join groups. And it's very easy to get active in groups by just sharing your post. Just put posts with a picture and you could share it with all your groups. So now you're being perceived as an expert. You got to go out there and give and give and give, get perceived as an expert. And then all of a sudden it just starts coming back. So
I'm so glad you said that.
The what?
I'm so glad you said that, because I preach the same vernacular. And so many people, especially recruiters, the only thing they post is, I need this, I need that, I'm recruiting for this, I'm recruiting for that. And it's not about that, especially a site like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not a job board. It's not something that you can't put something out there and expect a million people to send you their resumes. That's not how it works. It's the definition of online relationship building, where to your point, you've got to slow down and you've got to get involved in the conversation and contribute before you can ever try and expect to gain anything from it.
And you've got to get to know your groups. Like I'm in one group that's a diversity group, okay? And I don't send them all my posts. I only share my posts that have something to do with diversity or inclusion, or equality. I don't send them everything. So you've got to get to know the groups you're in, and send them information that they would find relevant. Then they'll share it with all their members. And I think how you can judge anybody that's listening to us today, if you want to know if you're a relationship building, recruiter, or you're just a vendor, how much of your business is referred? At least 40% of your candidates should come from referrals, and you should be getting referred to clients all the time. We have a very strong client referral program. The year I rolled that out, our client referrals went up by 350%. And that's the year I realized, clients gave us referrals, but once we did something that showed them how they benefited by giving us referrals, our referrals tripled. And so if you want to know if you're really doing a job out there, most of the people you place in jobs should be referrals. It makes it much easier than going out on LinkedIn, and trying to, send these stupid emails that are selling to them. Quit selling, quit pitching, position yourself as an expert, give people a lot, and you will draw them to you. You'll start getting incoming calls and in-mails. Every morning I've got somebody emailing me on something that they're asking, do you do this? Do you do that? Based on just the information we're putting out there.
Well, and I think part of the challenge that we have is we're in such an immediate gratification time where everybody wants it to happen now, that there's not a stick-to-itiveness, if you will, to lay that groundwork. And recruiting, ours is not an immediate gratification business. We all know that. You've got to do a lot to lay the groundwork so that you can reap the rewards down the road. And the mindset of a lot of recruiters these days is they want it now, and it's just not going to happen now. They've got to really adapt and understand, how the business works.
Well, and if you're really a good recruiter, you want to be in this for the long term. I've been in this over 30 years. And if you don't do the job right, when somebody asked me once, what differentiates you from other trainers or other recruiters? I go, I'm very responsible in the way I do my job. I'm responsible to the candidates. I'm responsible to the clients. I'm responsible to the people that work for me. If you ask me something, I don't lie because I don't have a good memory. And if you're a liar, you have to have a great memory. And I don't. I write everything down. People think I've got the greatest memory, but everything I do is in the ATS. Every conversation, every note. I don't allow Post-it notes, legal pads, notepads, nothing on anybody's desk. Everything is in the ATS because the way to really we've got to be better listeners than anything else. Great recruiters are great listeners. We ask great questions and we're great listeners, but then we quote back what they've said to us. And then people embrace you because they go, my God, you listen to me. You listen to understand where I'm coming from.
You actually care about me.
You care about me.
Exactly right.
It goes back to what the human right. I think in any relationship, human beings want to know three things. Do you care about me? Can I trust you? And are you going to do what you tell me you're going to do? Whether it's a personal relationship, a business relationship, human beings want to know three things. Can I trust you? Do you care about me? And whatever you tell me you're going to do, are you going to do it? And unfortunately, most recruiters can't answer yes to those three questions. And people change. We're dealing with human beings. And so another hint I'd like to give people, that first interview is a first date. They don't know you. They don't trust you. We only place 5% of the people that come to us. So their chances of having a negative experience is much higher than that they had a positive experience. So they're guarded. They don't know if we're a waste of their time or if we're going to do something. So it's a first date. They're going to give you what they can give you on a first date. Then when they realize you're different, you're going to do something for them, you sound different, you care, then they start becoming more honest, but life still happens. So every subsequent conversation with both clients and candidates, I ask the exact same question. Has anything changed since the last time we talked? Because I don't like to get blindsided. And recruiters hate that question. My recruiters hate that question because a lot of times they don't like the answer. But then you show people that you realize things change, and they're not going to tell you what's changed unless you ask them. So if you do nothing else as a result of this show, start asking in every subsequent conversation, has anything changed since the last time we talked? That shows people you care, and it keeps us on top of the changes that happen because we're dealing with human beings.
Barb summed it up. Giving equals growth, right, John? I say it all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so true. Recruiters are afraid to ask questions that they think they might get an answer that hurts them, but better to know what's going on than to get surprised or blindsided. And
those red flags fly higher, grow bigger, and you're not going to get an offer accepted. Then the client hates you because they're in fact, I withdraw candidates often during preps, because in a prep, you realize what you missed in the interview. So often when you're prepping them, you just realize, this isn't a match. And I'd rather call a client the night before and say, you know what, this isn't going to be a match. I don't want to waste your time, than to send them on an interview, have them fall in love, and then it's not going to happen. So we've got to ask the tough questions. We've got to uncover the red flags. We've got to quit being so afraid. We're so afraid, and it's going to come back and bite you anyway. So just ask the tough questions.
Well, we have to,
because they know
our clients are depending on us to ask those questions. I mean, that's why they're paying. That's why they're paying us money. And to everything we're saying as far as how to really recruit. Again, recruiters are hired to get untapped talent for their clients. You, as a recruiter, if you want to be the best of the best and become a trusted resource, you've got to deliver someone that the client can't get on their own, that no one else is going to find. So it can't be the same candidate that 5 of your competing agencies in town are also presenting. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to, work a little harder, get a little scrappy, and have a little faith in yourself. And to your point, you got to ask a lot of questions, and you can't be afraid of the answers.
I love when I speak in front of corporate audiences and they call us you people, like you people. I go, there is no, we don't belong to a you people cult. There is no you people. When the minute they say you people, I know, they've had a negative experience with a recruiter here, because they think I'm in the you people cult. But again, they complain all the time that they do call 3 or 4 recruiting firms and they get the same candidates because recruiters are lazy and using job boards. And I've had them ask me over and over again at conferences, Barb, when did recruiters stop recruiting? And I'm like, what? They go, you people don't recruit anymore. You're using what we use. We're not going to pay you a fee or high margins for a candidate that our internal team can get. We want you to get the people, those passive candidates that we can't find. So they ask that all the time, like, when do we stop recruiting? Well, if any of you are dependent on job boards, or you're dependent on LinkedIn, Recruiter, or you're dependent on other resources, you should be identifying a new resource for candidates every quarter. So if you've been out there for 5 years, you should have 20 resources. And which ones are you getting the best candidates from? And if you want to find a great resource for candidates, let me give you a way you can double or triple your candidate flow today. Okay, just pull out all the great candidates you've interviewed since January. All the rock stars that you interviewed since January, pull out their paperwork. And then I want you to call their last places of employment and ask for them. And they're going to tell you they're no longer there. And you're going to say, I really need to get in touch with them. Could I, send me back there. Maybe somebody kept their number. And then when you get their replacement, you recruit the replacement who has the exact same skill sets, the exact same everything. You tell them that you help that person advance their career. You can double and triple your candidate flow by that one thing. We just make it too hard. There's so many easy things. That's the way to double and triple your candidate flow today. So there's another tip that your listeners can put into action today.
That's an awesome nugget to take away. And you just said something that I totally believe in. I've always said recruiting is a very simple business. The people within it tend to want to complicate it, but it's not. You can keep it simple and be extremely successful. I want to talk about your clients for a little bit. I think it's interesting. I've heard a lot of different recruiters that offer candidate referral bonuses. I don't think I've ever heard or ever used, giving clients a bonus. I mean, I've taken a client to dinner, to lunch, whatever. But I like the client referral program. But one thing you're doing with your clients that you share with me that I want you to share with our audience, I thought was very, very innovative as far as really honing in on helping them decide what they need you to recruit for.
Absolutely. And there's a couple things I do, and I'll get into the referral program second. I've changed the way that we write job recs, because what I've realized for years, they give us a laundry list of, requirements that have to be there. Then they give us a job description, and they give us like 10 things they want us to get. And if a candidate has 8 of the 10, they won't interview them. And so what I'm trying to explain to clients is someone that's got 10 out of 10 things and is doing the exact same job is not going to take your job because it's a lateral move for them. Even if it's more money, people want to enhance their marketability. So you've got to get people where your job is a little bit of a stretch, because now that's going to excite them. You can find someone who's doing the exact same job to do the exact same job for you, maybe for a little bit more money. Eventually, they're going to look for something where they're learning something. So 10 years ago, maybe a little more than 10 years ago, we started asking our clients for 5 performance objectives. Give me how you're going to evaluate this person in 6 months to a year. I want you to come back to me and say, Barb, that's the best hire we ever made through you. So what does my candidate have to do to have you come back in 6 months or a year and you tell me, my God, that was the best hire we've ever made through you? And they'll go, oh, I go, so how are they going to be evaluated? Then, so I can go back and talk to everybody in the interviewing process. Let's find out how they're going to be evaluated. And by the way, I also send a copy of every rec we write to everybody involved in the hiring process. They have to initial off on it, because 50% of the time they make changes. And it's usually the last couple of people. So we also do that. But anyways, I ask for performance objectives. And then what I realize, there's a disconnect between the rec they gave me and the performance objectives. So I'll say, okay, looking at this. And by the way, when I take recs, we also do percentages. What percentage of the time are they doing these things? Because only then do I have a clear picture of the job. And so then I go performance objectives. I go, gee, looking at this, how you're evaluating them, do you really need this skill set that you're only going to use 5% of the time? If somebody has that, they're going to leave. They're not going to get engaged and retained, because they're not using a skill set that's hard to find, that you're very rarely going to use. And they go, take that off. And then I'll look at how they're going to evaluate them and say, you know what, we need to have somebody that also has this, if this is how they're going to be evaluated. The beauty about this is when you're presenting the job to the candidate, you tell them what's going to be expected, how they're going to be evaluated in 6 months to a year. It excites some, it turns others right off. So it almost eliminates fall offs, because now they know how they're going to be evaluated. And I got rid of the laundry list. They're interviewing many more candidates than they ever interviewed before, because I tell them these people can do the job. What you're going to evaluate them on, they can do that. They can hit these goals you've set. And then I make sure that the hiring authority shares the performance objectives with this person's direct manager, so everything is clear cut. Because sometimes we place people in jobs and we've done a great job, and then all of a sudden you see this disconnect and the candidate's calling back going, hey, this isn't exactly what I thought. The client is saying your candidate's not performing. And then we're like, wait a minute, we made the perfect match in our opinion. Well, if you add performance objectives to your job rec, start asking clients, how are you going to evaluate my candidate in 6 months to a year? It changes the whole thing.
That's huge. And
I think John's frozen.
Uh-oh, John, you there? It's like he looks like Jack Nicholson, right? Shining right now.
I kind of like him when he can't talk. He's kind of
Johnny
with his mouth open.
I'm sure he'll come back on. But Barb, that's incredible stuff. I got to ask you something. I think Johnny's going to come back on right now. He's just doing a shining pose for us. So
I love it.
I got to ask you about recruiters. I get this all the time. How do they start their day and how do they manage their day? How do you explain to them, because they get so distracted throughout the day? How do they become successful throughout the whole week of pre-planning?
I really do think that if you want to elevate your level of success, you can't manage time. People always ask me to do programs on time management. You can't manage time. We all have the same 168 hours. What you can do is manage what you do within the time. So I believe that if you don't plan, you're going to be distracted by the urgent constantly. And we're salespeople. And for years, I didn't plan. I kept saying, you're not a recruiter. Like, you're telling me to plan my day, work my plan. Well, with every phone call, my day can change. And so I resisted planning for the first 10 years of my career. And I was working such ridiculous hours. And then finally, I always have a coach. I always have somebody that's coaching me. And one of my coaches said, why don't you plan? And I go, because you can't in my profession. And he goes, that's a cop-out. Of course you can. And he said, because then if something urgent takes you away, you get back quicker. And so then what I decided to do was well, welcome back, John.
I had a power surge.
Johnny.
I had a power surge, and obviously in South Florida, we get our share of storms. Heard a little bit of thunder and a crack, and all of a sudden everything went dark. So I was like, so I apologize.
That's not what happened. What happened was Richard and I decided we didn't want you on for a little bit. So we just kind of
That's right.
I wanted to give you guys some alone time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, Dawn, you did a great pose there for what movie, Barb? Go ahead, say it.
Jack Nicholson, your mouth was open. It was kind of cute.
Like the Shining. You look like the Shining,
yeah,
Johnny.
he did.
Was
Absolutely.
Here's Johnny pose?
Yeah.
Yes, that was
exactly right. It was exactly
Wonderful.
right.
I hope you caught a screen capture.
Hey, that's why we're always live. You know that. You never know what's going to happen. John disappears, comes back. What the hell?
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we didn't miss you, John. I mean, I don't want to make you feel bad, but we were doing fine without you.
That's okay. I don't feel bad at all. I don't feel bad at all.
We were flowing, John. Okay, Barb, we'll continue. Continue, dear.
So I'm wondering where I was. I don't even remember where we were. We were asking about
recruiting throughout the day, time management.
Well, the planning. Okay. Yeah. So my theory is if you're not a planner, you're going to be distracted. We're distracted all day long anyway, and interruptions. Now, there's different answers for people working virtual than in an office, but you got to segment your day. And the one thing you could do starting right now, if you're not a planner, every night of my life, I write down my 6 priorities closest to the money every night. So do all my employees. And those are things that I'm going to do tomorrow, no matter what happens, hell or high water. I'm going to get those 6 priorities done, because it has happened to me that it's 4:00 and oh my God, I didn't debrief somebody. Oh my God, I didn't check a reference. Things that are going to lead up to a placement. And so write down the 6 priorities closest to the money and commit to doing those every day. And then 10 outgoing phone calls. Too many recruiters are like goldfish. I loved your shark thing at the beginning of your show, because I do a program. Are you a goldfish or a shark? You can't be a goldfish sitting in a bowl, waiting for incoming calls, waiting for people to feed you, because if somebody doesn't feed you, you die. You've got to be a shark and go out there and track down what you need and who you want to talk to. Control your destiny with your planned outgoing calls. So the way to manage time, write your 6 priorities closest to the money every day. And for the month of August, 10 outgoing calls. And then in the month of September, up that by 10 to 20 outgoing calls until you're finally planning 100% of your outgoing calls the night before. If you get to work in the morning and you don't know what you're doing, you wipe out 90 minutes trying to decide. And sending emails on LinkedIn is not recruiting. That's stuff you should do non-prime time. Amen. You know, when you're there when you're in prime time, you should be reaching out to people and having conversations, because they will talk to you if they see the benefit. So I believe in segmenting your time. In my organization, we finish 4 of the 6 by noon. Just 4 of the 6 by noon. We don't take incoming calls until 12 o'clock in my organization, because every voicemail we're leaving people is, hi, my name is Barb Bruno. Someone suggested we talk. When you call me back, interrupt me no matter what I'm doing. I don't want to miss your call. Have a great day. Again, my name is Barb Bruno. I leave the number twice. The reason people call that back is, I said I was referred. I told them to interrupt me no matter what I'm doing. I don't want to miss their call. Made them feel important. So they call back. So the only calls we take in the morning are when somebody calls and said, Barb said interrupt her. You know, it's because then we know it's a hit. It's either a client or a candidate's a hit.
Nice.
And the reason we do that is we try to get 60%, 70% of our outgoing calls done by noon, because in the afternoon, all the stuff starts happening. And when everybody, if you're in an office, when everybody in the office is doing that, there's that noise. You know, a recruiting blitz is not, on the computer just sending emails. It's having conversations.
I want to hear that buzz.
Yes, that buzz is that certain hum of a successful organization. So that's what I believe. I believe planning is the key to managing your time properly. And if you've got to do, say your number is you want 5 send outs in a week. Say you're doing direct hire and your send out to placement ratio is 5-1. You know that every time you send out 5 people on a first interview, somebody gets a job, and you want to make 4 placements in a month. And so you know that you've got to get 5 send out. You got to send out a day. If you know that you have to do 3 interviews before you book a send out, that means you have to do 15 interviews every week if you're going to book 5 send outs and if you're going to make a placement that week. Recruiters, you got to know your numbers. We're in sales. It's a numbers. It's a ratio game. So if I've got to do 3 interviews a day, I'm going to make as many recruiting calls as I have to make till I book 5 interviews, because someone's going to no-show. Someone's going to, freak out on me. And so at the end of the week, I want a minimum of 15 interviews done. So it's never about the numbers of calls you make. It's what results do you need based on your individual ratios every day. And if I do 2 interviews on Monday, I got to do 4 on Tuesday, because on Friday I have to have 15. If you hold yourself accountable to that, you're going to hit or surpass goals every month. Yep.
And that's the wonderful thing I love about the science of our business is you can trace back, you can set yourself, all right, what do I want to do this year? And then you can back it up to monthly, weekly, daily types of goals. And again, holding yourselves accountable. And I love what you said. I believe recruiting metrics are important to manage your business, but it's not the number, it's the result of the number. And that's what we lose sight of sometimes. So many people are like, well, did you get your dials this week? It's not that I get my dials. It's like, what happened from those dials? I might have 1,000 dials. That's great. I might have had 250 conversations. That's great. But if I've got nothing to show for it, there's a disconnect. So it's not about the action. It's about what happens afterwards. That I always think is important.
I love owners that bonus. If you make 50 calls, they bonus you. And so what I said to the owner, and their solution to everything is make more calls. Well, if I'm making really crappy calls, if I made 50 calls and didn't get any hits, and I make 50 more of those calls, how dumb is that? The answer is never make more calls. It's the call. It's what results do you get? And if you're not getting results, tweak the call. Recruiters, it amazes me how people don't want to pay the price to really become a high achiever in our profession. 95% of the people in our profession are average. It's only 5% that ever hit that big billing top biller status. The ones that do are so focused, and they know exactly what they're going to do, and they constantly change the way they work their desk. If something's not working, they change it. And we've all had to make so many changes since 2020 that we should already be good at that. But I believe in trying something new every single month. What are you doing new this month that's going to make you better? Every month, you should just implement one idea so it replaces an old habit with a new habit. And then you keep growing, and then you keep producing more.
Because as the old saying goes, what got you here won't get you there.
Absolutely. I love that.
One idea every week.
I love that.
Oh my gosh. This is great stuff.
Barb, I can ask you real quick, how do you change the owner's mindset on this? When I first jumped in staff and he was like, here's a book, call everybody till, and then keep calling over and over again. When do you stop that and say, like you said, when do you get owners to buy into this?
Well, it's interesting because I have a lot of recruiters that follow me and that type of thing. They'll say, my owner this, my owner that. Well, first of all, every time you point the finger back at you're pointing the finger at someone, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So what can you do different? If I don't like something my owner is doing, if I go up to my owner, I'm an owner. If somebody came up to me and said, well, I don't like the way we're doing this, and if they're whining and moaning, I'm not listening as an owner. I'm like, get back to your desk, pick up the phone, because that's an owner mindset. But if you walked in my office and said, I think we're losing money. We're losing money because of something. I want to share this with you. You tell me I'm losing money and you've got an idea that's going to make me more money, or you go to your desk and you work your desk differently and all of a sudden you're producing more. You absolutely have the undivided attention of the owner because they want to know what you're doing. So try to implement things on your own, and eventually, but if you tell an owner they're losing money, you're going to get their attention.
Well, and also don't come to the owner just complaining about problems. You've got to bring something to the table. So you've got to come, hey, if you've got a problem or you perceive problem, also be ready with a couple ways that you think you can solve that problem, because otherwise they're not going to want to hear you.
Well, and the problem with so many owners and managers, and I did this too early in my career, I complained once to a coach that I felt all my recruiters were connected to me by an umbilical cord. And I go, it's driving me nuts, like they can't think for themselves. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, if they get in a problem closed, they come to me. They can't. It's that constant questions. And he goes, well, what do you do when people ask you questions? I go, I answer them. He goes, what do you do if there's a problem closed? I go over to their desk and I close it for them. He goes, I show them. And he goes, are you having them do it, Barb, or are you doing it? I go, well, no, I go and close it. And he goes, therein lies the problem. Every time anybody asks you a question, you don't give them an answer. You ask them what their solution is. Then you either agree with their solution or disagree, but get people to think on their own. If a placement is going south, then listen to what they're doing, but write down what they should be saying, let them do it. So the goal for people that manage recruiters is to make them stronger than they are, make them better. Don't make them dependent on you. You don't want them to use your brain, because then you can't walk away and have it work because they're too dependent on you. So, I think that's an important question for anybody that's supervising recruiters, anybody time they ask you a question, because it's always the lowest producer that asks the most questions. They'd rather talk to you than make a phone call. So they're the ones that ask questions all day long. I don't have an open door policy. My door is open early in the morning, midday, and at the end of the day. Any other question you have, write down and hit me early morning, midday, or at the end of the day, unless it's a close. Then interrupt me whenever. But,
Sure.
Your people, again, it's a bad habit people form, and it's always the lowest producer that mails out the most information and asks you the most questions because it's easier than doing your job.
Wow. Words of wisdom. I love it. I totally agree with everything you just said.
You guys are so agreeable. I love this interview.
No, Barb.
We're all in
I'm
the same
drinking the
mindset.
Kool-Aid bar
philosophy.
from you.
I hear you.
It's a good thing. Trust me, we when we don't agree with something, we're not shy.
Okay, awesome. I've been waiting
gotta ask
for it.
you
I've been waiting for it.
One final question, Barb, and the reason I'm asking this is I see this on a lot of the groups I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. Recruiter, performance-based versus a salary recruiter. What's your opinion? I mean, how do you get the best out of that person? Which way would you go, or either way?
I think that your true high achieving recruiters want to be paid on performance, but they also want a base salary. You can't do draw versus base anymore. That because the minute they get in the red, they quit. They're looking for another job. So there has to be a salary, but I think that most of your recruiters, triple, quadruple their salary and the commissions they're getting, and that's what motivates them. So, most people, it's a sales job, they're money motivated. Obviously, talent acquisition departments, they're making a salary, and they make a higher salary than staffing and recruiting recruiters make because they don't have the commissions. But even many corporations are incentivizing their talent acquisition people. They're not calling them recruiters anymore, HR. Now, when I started, it was personnel, then it went to human resource. Now it's talent acquisition. And I think there's a lot of bonuses, also being paid because they realize this is not an easy job, and so I think that when you incentivize people, especially if they're money motivated, I think who we are is we're social workers who like money. We are, we want to help people.
I love that terminology.
Yeah, we want to help people. I mean, we've all got that do-gooder thing in us. I mean, I do, but you can't have somebody be such a social worker. I'm not going to put an awning over someone's desk that says nonprofit, so it has to be a social worker who likes money. But the reason I like most people in our profession is we're good people. We really do care about people. It's just that, and when you asked me at the beginning, do we not care anymore? I just think we're so busy, and technology has taken over so much that we forget it's a relationship building business. But most of us went into this because we want to make a difference, as hokey as that sounds. We want people better off for having worked with us. I still get so excited when somebody is advancing their career as a result of something we've done, or a company hit a goal because we got them the right talent. So I think that if we just, again, slow down a little bit, quit pitching too soon, ask better questions, listen better, and go out there and answer those 3 questions. Can I trust you? Do you care about me? Are you going to do what you tell me you're going to do? It'll just improve all of us.
Sounds so simple, yet so many people try and find ways to reinvent the wheel. But it is, if you follow those simple rules in life and in business, you'll enjoy it so much more. I always used to, getting into this business, I believe, to your point, you've got to, it may not be your top motivator, but money's got to be one of your motivators. That's one of the reasons why you get into recruiting. And I used to tell people, a nice byproduct of what we do is we help a lot of people involved, but we're here to deliver talent, and you're here because you've got an uncapped income that you have control over, and you don't have that. There's a lot more less stress jobs that someone could do.
Oh, absolutely.
If they just want to learn, if they just want to earn their salary and no commission, they can go do something else for a lot less stress.
No, you're right. And what I learned a long time ago is someone told me once that I was teaching people to be too money motivated. And I said, well, next to good health, money has the biggest impact on your life. If you want to change a lot of things, if you have money, you have choices. We're not going to be that non-for-profit, but we can certainly donate to those non-for-profits. When I look at the people that are very successful in our profession, they are so generous. They do things behind the scenes. I know several trainers and myself, when we see like something hit a certain geographic area, I will send free training materials to all the staffing firms, just because you do those things, So when you have money, you have choices. And I think, and also I always ask recruiters, what price is your family paying for you not becoming the success you were meant to be? Because there's a price to pay. It's not an 8 to 5. We've got to make calls in the evening when people can't talk. We've got to do certain things, but we're at home. It's not like we're in the office, so it just depends. It's almost like what you see when you close your eyes at night. That's your reality when you open your eyes. And you've got to determine, recruiters are not going to get better because their boss wants them to. They're going to get better if they've got goals set up for themselves. And under whatever goals they set this year, there should be 5 dated action items. Those are the steps to hit the goals. And if they have those facing them as they're working, they'll make the extra call. They'll make the extra effort. They'll become better at this job for themselves and for the reasons that are important to them and the people they love. My kids and my grandkids are my motivation, period. As well as our industry, because I want to leave a legacy for my industry. But, People have to know where they're going. And we forgot one thing. You said this was the last question, and I know I don't want someone to come back and say I didn't share my client referral program, because we went off of that.
Yes.
What I do when clients give me referrals is I donate to their favorite charity in their name, because of Sarbanes-Oxley and everything, we cannot give gifts. You can't do things. And so what I decided, many years ago was, why don't I donate to their charity in their name? Now, their charity could be their kids' softball team or baseball team. It could be, we bought more uniforms for more teams. It could be their church or synagogue. It could be the American Cancer Society. It could be whatever they want. And then, so I take a percentage of the direct fee, or I take a percentage of the gross margin of profit on our contract. So we've got some parameters around it. But then we print a check. We have the charity show up. Somebody from our company show up. We present the money. Okay. The picture makes the company newsletter. Then we give them a plaque that they put on their wall. I've had my competitors say, why does everybody have plaques on their walls from your company? And I go, read the plaque, and if any of your listeners want to get, I outline this for my training clients, like how to set it up, how to announce it. Like, you've got to invite them to participate in your client referral program. I will share that with everybody. Like, if you want a copy of the whole program and the wording and how to set it up, if you send an email to support@staffingandrecruiting.com. So just send an email to support@staffingandrecruiting.com. And in the subject line, put down client referral. Whoever does that, I'll send them a copy of the whole program, how to set it up, the wording, and exactly what we do. Because then you could have and this will help you land the clients you want to land for sure. And your current clients love it, because it makes them look like a hero, to these nonprofits. So the nonprofit wins, they win, you write off the donation. So it's a win-win.
What I love about all that is you truly practice what you preach, in the sense that that's not something you had all the time. At some point in your career, in your professional development, this was an idea that surfaced and you put into play. Again, always trying to do something different, innovative, to be different from everybody else. You can't stay static. You have to continue to evolve.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Johnny, any final thoughts? I mean, all I can say is wow.
I could talk to you for a long time, Barb. You went down a road. We may have to have you back, because you started talking about another thing that we love discussing, and that's the whole thought about talent development. Like when you talked about, hey, if you give your person goals and they're in front of them, but how often do recruiters get hired and they're not given any direction? They're just given a phone and a computer, and they don't know what their goals are. So part of that failure, if you will, is that mentorship isn't there, that management, that leadership isn't there. And sometimes the managers don't know how to do that. Whole nother topic for a whole nother show,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But no, it's been great. And I can't thank you enough for taking time out and spending it with us and our listeners.
No problem.
Totally
it was my
agree.
pleasure. It was my pleasure. This was very
Barb,
enjoyable.
where can everybody reach you at, Barb? So on social media, if they need to contact you or your group.
If they go on LinkedIn and just connect with me on LinkedIn, because I'll give you a lot of free stuff. So I'm constantly doing training articles for you.
I'm writing it down free.
Yeah, and then I also have my website, which is goodasgoldtraining.com. So goodasgoldtraining.com, or the website. And then if you go to my website, my phone number's there, my email's there. I am very accessible, and I'm a phone person. So people are always surprised when they call and I answer, and they're like, what? And I go,
imagine that.
Phone. I tell you to be a phone person. So, I'm very easy to find, very easy to contact.
That's amazing. Well, I got to thank you again, Barb, for coming on the show. You're part of my family now. You know that.
Awesome.
You are officially part of the Staffing Shark family, which is incredible. But no, you've taught so much today to recruiters out there, and I'm sure they have more questions, and hopefully down the feed, we'll get them answered. But I think the biggest thing, John and Barb, in this whole thing is, just be true, be yourself, and things will happen, man. This is the greatest industry ever. I swear to God, Barb, you don't know me that well, but I freaking love this industry, man. I can cry every day. I just embrace it. I love it. And I love people like you guys that support me, because it's the biggest support for recruiters. Recruiters, if you want to be the best, everybody's out here to help you. Am I right, John?
Very true. Can't do it alone.
No, you
It's
can't.
so true.
And we've got to share ideas and help each other get better.
Agreed.
Agree. So once again, Barb, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That concludes another episode of Recruiters with No Limits. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Take care.
Yes, we will.
Bye, guys.